So I come here to explain the basis of the build that I'm making. It is a Necromancer Rip physical based build with physical damage over time. Okay, and I basically scale minion damage and spell damage together with the skill gems that scale physical damage. So we still don't have the path of building correctly set up for it. I'm going to even check for update here, but I put here Rip and Cruelty support because apparently it's going to be very synergic, those two. And together with it, it's Control Destruction, Unleash Brutality, and Maim. Because they work with spells fine now. Really fine. And together with these, we have the buffs here. We have the Vulnerability, Curse, and we have here Herald of Purity, Blood and Sand, and War Banner for damage. And for defense, I'm going to be using Flesh and Stone. It's still worth it, even it's now 30% preservation is too good to be avoided. And for additional offense, we have the new skill gem, Corrupting Fever, that we still don't have in Path of Building. And then for additional defense, we have Desecrate with Bone Offering here. That's going to be hard cast. Eventually, I'm going to add this in a trigger wand that is going to be 8 seconds, right? Trigger of 8 seconds because the nerf did a lot, but if a little bit of the maybe for an increased duration here that I can we can extend this for being more than 8 seconds, right? Easily. And then with this and Steel Skin together with the nodes of block, we are not using glancing blows here, we get 46% of attack block and 45% of spell block. So for this build is not very interesting, the glancing blows, because you're going to lose a lot of the cap, right? I'm going to be, if I double this, I get to be 92, but the cap is 75, and this one here goes for 90 and the cap is 75. So to get 35% reduction is not very interesting. So I already have a lot of block here from the nodes here and here and here, and from the Bone Offering being active. So this is one of the big defenses of the build. The other one, like I said, is a Steel Skin that is going to be very up a lot of the time because it's going to be on your cursor clicker, and of course the base life of the build is going to be a high one. As you can see here, I have some items, even this belt that I got in the Gauntlets, the best belt that I could find. And you can see that the rings are not crazy in life, and the amulet, this was a lucky amulet, but a lucky boot, so come on, I got some medium items here. But look, the gloves, not very high roll, the body armor, not very high roll of life. So the life is kind of medium, and at level 90, at level 88, I forgot, level 88 I got to have 6,911 life. That's a great amount of life. Together with the build, we scale the minion damage, okay, with Spiritual Aid and the nodes of Necromancer, of course. And we will have here Plague Bringer and Corpse Pact for additional defense and offense, okay, for shocked and chilled, and of course for reduced damage taken and damage done by the enemies and more damage that you have. And we will have these to ease the early cap of resistances, and this for the Bone Offering. Aside from that, you can see that I start here in the beginning of the tree and I go getting the spell nodes, life here, and then Deep Wisdom. I go for area of effect here. I go for block spell damage here, and jewel, normal jewel, more life here. I go for the shield nodes. I had removed elemental overload because I was going berserk, but we are still very in the dark about the berserk and spell casting as a berserker. It's kind of strange. So for now, this build is going to focus on the Necromancer, and with it's going to be pretty much up all the time, the elemental overload, because of also this here, right? We don't need elemental damage for this build. It's basically just spell damage, and minion damage is going to be aided by Spiritual Aid. We need here chaos resistance as much as we can, more life nodes, a jewel here, and these two nodes here, this one Sanctity and Warrior's Blood, is very interesting for the life regen of the build, because you're going to be spending life to cast Rip all the time, and so life regeneration is really important. And they changed this Born to Fight to be physical damage, not only melee physical damage. Very good. Here, reduced mana for the other skills that we cast. The shield nodes are very important. This here, very important too. Nodes of damage. Here for the maximum fire resistance, always good, right? And here, a little investment of three points to get some good life and armor and more jewel. And here, of course, the whole Constitution node, always good to get this fine life that is a big defense of the build. So based on the items that I got from my gauntlets, the build is very decent here and it's all capped, it's all fine. If I could find this in the gauntlet that had no bonus for items, you can find this in the first days of the league easily. So that's it for this description of the build. So for a variation of the build, of the Rip build, we have the converted to elemental damage build. This build will not use a necromancer, use an elementalist. And for the conversion, we will have these nodes here that convert 40%, and we will have the physical to lightning that converts 50%. So you get a 90% converted build. You can get the other 10 from other sources, maybe gloves later in the league. But this, the beginning of the league is 90% converted to elemental damage. That's going to be fire and lightning. So the links change to you remove maim and brutality and you put physical to lightning and added fire in the place. And no cruelty either, right? You are not going to use maim or brutality or cruelty. You're going to use physical to lightning and added fire in the place of it. You also change the Herald of Ash. You put the Herald of Ash in the place of the War Banner. You'll still have mana to cast the other skills, and Rip will cost life anyways. You will use the Golems for both the defensive and offensive buffs that they grant here from the Elementalist, 3 Golems. The Bastion of Elements is still very good. The Primal Aegis got 25% of a nerf, but it's still very good. It's still a big defensive buff on the build. Elemental Weakness in the place of Vulnerability, of course. And in both builds, you can implement Shield Charge with Fortify, because Fortify is a great defensive buff. Little changes to the tree. You'll get the Divine Wrath and Divine Fury, both for the physical increased damage and for the physical as fire and as lightning the damage. And you have here too Divine Judgment, 50% increased damage. It's crazy. So we avoided to get these two here and also this node here because we got so much life here. It's a little less life, but we have the Primal Aegis and a little more damage for the Elementalist and a little less life here too, because again we get the Primal Aegis and the damage gets a little lacking because it's previous build, the build it's only physical damage, everything scales physical, and here we really have to invest a little bit more in damage for the build to be smooth. And here there is a big possibility to use Glancing Blows now, because we have 36% of attack block and 28% of spell block. So with Glancing Blows you get to go for 72 and 56. But I advise you only getting Glancing Blows when you get a good shield with life on block, because if not you're going to get, you know, stunned very frequently. You're going to get combo stunned. It's not funny. So at least without Glancing Blows you completely remove the damage of a hit. So with Glancing Blows you diminish more hits, but you get more stun lock probably. So that's it. Basically the changes of the build are minor, just to make a conversion of the build, to change the tendencies and change a little bit of the gems, and you get some different nodes, so the build works well with a conversion. Both links for the path of building will be in the description of the video. Have a good league.